There we go. Hello, good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. Happy SciVive Sunday. Excited to be here. I am so thrilled that there are people waiting for this stream. Appreciate y'all. Let's see. We got Jen Hex up in the house. Good morning. Yes, it is Hex Church time. That is right. Very excited for this new content we're going to do here. Tin Top, good to see you. John Jay in the UK. What's going on in the UK? Amen. Hallelujah. Love it. All right, Georgia. Hello, Georgia. Good morning. I'm going to have to figure out how to make these banners. Let's see. It's different. I'll do that later. Ooh, I just lost chat. There we go. Okay. Empty Coiner. What is going on? Nice to see you in here. Chris Side Effects. Hello, friend. Thanks for showing up. Godfather. J6. Hello. Welcome. Okay. Just said hi to chat real quick. I appreciate y'all hanging out with me as I work through all the technicalities of doing these streams. Like, I don't like the way the banners are right now. I'm gonna have to change that. I'm a new streamer, so I'm still learning all the ins and outs of everything. I wanted to start this morning off with a little bit of worship. So we're gonna listen to a song. And I think this one is very relevant because if you happen to just catch Richard on his live stream, lots of really good tidbits in there. We heard after the sacrifice balances are fixed, 2 weeks, 2 more weeks. So that's what we're doing. We're waiting for the pulse chain. So let me see if I can figure this out and share my screen. And again, thanks for all your patience. Let's see, Shift 8. Oh man. This is the thing about trying to figure shit out. It says to press Shift and 7. Someone who knows StreamYard, help. Oh, share screen. Aha. Okay, here we go. Oh man. Thanks again for your patience, everyone. Trying to make this work. That's fine. I don't need to record anything. All right, let's see. You guys are still seeing me. Okay, share. Here we go, share. Yeah? Cool. I don't know, y'all. No. I'm so sorry. I don't know. System preferences. Unlock the screen. Google Chrome. I had to restart Chrome, y'all. Okay, hold on. Let's see if I can do this. Nope. Okay, well, you know what? We're gonna do that next week. I apologize. I knew there'd be a little bit of technical difficulties in trying to get things going, and I am on my new computer, Chris Side Effects. Yes, and I think it's just that I've never set up StreamYard to share my screen before, so it's not allowing me to. And for some reason, like the StreamYard things aren't like, it won't let me change my layout at all. So yeah, StreamYard learning curve is real. Okay, so we'll do some worship next week while I get that figured out. But really what I wanted to do is just come on here and read SciVive. I personally have only read up to the point of where y'all have heard in the audiobook. I'm working on chapter 4 right now. So I've only read up to chapter 4, but I had a request. Someone wanted me to, they were like, oh, can you just skip the next couple chapters? They really want to hear chapter 6. So, and I already kind of had this idea to come on here and talk about SciVive and read SciVive. So I decided to go ahead and cater to that request. I'm not going to start at the beginning. I decided to kind of go through it. 6 is also a very long chapter. So I decided to just kind of pick a part in the middle that applied to something that I know personally I can talk about. And yeah, we're just going to go from there. So the section that I chose in chapter 6, the headline says, if you're a minimalist, you'll be happy changing your attitude. And that attracted me. I think in reading a little bit of this at first, I think he's kind of speaking on a different kind of minimalism, as you'll see when I read it. But I consider myself a minimalist in tangible things, right? I don't necessarily have a lot of stuff that I own, or especially I talk about clothes a lot. I don't really own a lot of clothing. I like to have things that are durable, that look good, I feel good in them, and that are going to last a really long time. So yeah, so I saw the word minimalist and I was like, oh, that piques my interest. Let's see what's going on with that. So we're going to start here, and I'm just going to start reading, and y'all can feel free to comment if you want to talk about something. If you hear something that I say and that strikes you, it's something that you can relate to, that you have a story about, feel free to share that. I may eventually, I'm not, this is the first time we're doing this, so I may eventually open it up to have other guests, but I think I'm going to wait until I can figure out the technicalities a little bit better, because like I said, I can't even share my screen, so I don't know how having another person on the stream would work. So maybe Jen Hex, maybe you and I can hang out and do some StreamYard tutorials. I would love that. Or I'm sure I could just look it up on YouTube too. But anyways, with all that said, let's get started, y'all. I'm going to start reading. And like I said, just speak up when you want to. I'm going to be watching the chat. I'll be kind of going back and forth as I see people talking. So let's get to it. All right, so this is within chapter 6. This is actually on page, it starts on the bottom of page 68 if you want to read along. Here we go. If you're a minimalist, you'll be happy changing your attitude. If you are a minimalist about what you really care about in a lover, friend, an employee, or even yourself, then you're going to find a lot more happiness in life, because you're going to greatly increase the available parties you interact with. That brings you more joy and happiness. If you think that no one deserves to be your friend unless they are heads of state and in charge of a country, you're kind of screwed, because it's very hard to hang out with those people. They change every 4 years depending on what country you live. They have reasons to not be truthful, and their friendship towards you does to trade disputes or keeping the people that vote for them happy. They have reasons not to be truthful, and their friendship towards you does to trade disputes or keeping the people that vote for them happy. See, this is what I mean when when it's a little bit difficult to read, because that sentence, we're gonna get to editing this at some point. It's gonna be great. But that's why I have bloopers and stuff, right? Because as I'm reading it, I'm just like, oh, well, wait, what's the inflection there? Let's continue. Wouldn't you be much better served by not requiring your friends to be heads of state, or have IQs over 200, or be world champions of some sort? The more restrictive you are about the requirements that you have to feel happiness with a person in your life, the harder it will be for you to have that. Consequently, as a side effect, not only will it be harder to attain, it will also be harder to keep. You see the same thing with people. The more artificially restrictive you are with requirements must be met in order for you to find happiness in a partner, the less happiness you will have. By the way, this applies to employees that you might want, or a company that you want to do business with, or yourself. I like that. Also applies to yourself. If you have a rule that you can only be happy with yourself when you have had snow on 0 days for 100 days in a row, and achieve a body fat index of 15%, and you're the strongest you've ever been, you're going to have a rough time. And that I'm going to pause real quick, and this is kind of how it'll go. Is I'm going to kind of extrapolate on some of his points, right? So that's a really great thing to point out. If you're only going to be happy with yourself at your peak, how do you even know what that is? How long is it going to take you to get there? So how long are you going to be miserable with yourself? I think the point he's trying to make here is be happy with yourself where you're at. And he does speak to that in other chapters, where there was one I quoted recently where he talks about, if you want to feel good, you want to feel great about yourself, think about a time where you were proud and sit up straight and, just bask in that glory again. And that's going to bring you back to that spot, because what you think about, you become. Okay. So let's continue. The more you compound that, the harder you make it. It's like adding extra locks to a door. Now the door to happiness for you has 20 locks on it instead of one. Which is more likely for you to get into your house in a reasonable time frame? The door with 20 locks, the door with 20 locks, sorry, the door with 20 locks of 20 different keys, or the door with one lock and one key? How do you know how often you need to go in that door? How much overhead are you willing to have in your life to meet the standard that you and only you is responsible for in the end? It is perhaps more accurate that lots of people are responsible for it, but you have the most influence over it. We might as well say you and only you, but in reality, we mean that even if you happened to inherit or adopt some bad belief in regards to what must happen in order for you to be happy, you have the power to change, as well as the power to believe it's totally fair to feel good if any given level gets set right. I like that, Craig. Craig says he's a locksmith. He'd have keyed all the 20 locks real quick. Very funny. Yeah, be your own cheerleader, Susie Q. Absolutely. I love that. All right. SciVive has talked about how this pertains to relationships, and how there's a side effect of you being overly picky. Not only will you never attain your dream partner, and even if you did temporarily, you won't be able to keep the relationship because the other person has so many options. They're harder to get. They're harder to keep. As you lower the requirements for what you need to be happy, not only does it become easier to get what you want, but they're going to make you much happier. Very closely related to this, by the way, is not only can you choose a standard by which you hold the other people in your life to, but also the standards you hold yourself to. You can also change the rate at which you measure whether people are meeting those standards. That rate becomes the frequency at which you determine your happiness level based on your standards and expectations of others. SciVive hopes you have a frequency. You have to do things at least twice to have a frequency. This next little chapter is called The Life Cycle of a Relationship. Things normally deteriorate over time. You might have started with a good relationship. Your relationship now might be a piece of crap, but you just never noticed because you're busy at work or doing something else. By the way, if you didn't notice that your relationship turned to crap, you're a bad partner, because it means you're not focusing on the things that are important to a relationship. If you're not bringing joy, happiness, importance, and security to your partner, and that's not on the list of things you're focused on, and that's the reason that you didn't notice that those things weren't happening for them or for you, you're a bad partner. You play catch even though you're not really playing catch. You're just playing catch with yourself. That's not the highest and best relationship to have. Maybe make it a ritual. How is my relationship doing? Are there some things I should be doing better? That's great advice too. There's many people who I believe are kind of stuck. They feel stuck in these relationships because they don't check in. They don't think to themselves, how is my relationship doing? Just like he's saying here, you're too busy. You get too busy wrapped up in your work or your hobby or whatever it is, and you've completely ignored this relationship that's now turned to crap. So that is a great piece of advice. Make it a ritual to check in, either just with yourself, to observe, what is going on in my relationship, or, literally speak with your partner. Like, how are we doing? How is this relationship going? All right, next chapter or next section. It says friends, negative peer group. Don't train negative and don't game imbeciles and schmucks. What a great word, schmucks. If you're coming up with a list of crap to tell people you meet because the truth is too scary for them, find a better group of people. Really try to find that more empowering group instead of training to be less than your best self. When you're doing better than someone else and you let them discover it to some degree, they will hate you. Only the very rare and most advanced people can actually find joy in someone else's superiority to them, in a trait that they have that they're proud of. Next little section says stress testing. Won the lottery? Before you let anyone know you won, ask all your friends to borrow some money and help you move. This is great. Unfriend the ones who refuse. If you've got real balls, never let anyone know. That's smart, because then you're going to know who your real friends are. Yes. And I feel like that's a huge part of, in fact, the first part he said, where did that go? Never mind. I guess I was thinking of something else. I was just thinking, I feel like that's why hexagons are the besticons. Because it doesn't matter. Like, yeah, we're all on this roller coaster together, right? Money up, money down. We're all friends here. I mean, unless we're villains or other things. All right, next section. Friends and money. Does everyone have a good trait? Most people do. If you're creative, intelligent, and sincere, you can find it and give them a truly beautiful compliment. You actually have to know them thoroughly first. As you advance in this world, you realize that one of the quickest ways to get rid of a friend is to lend one more money than one can repay. What option does he or she have? To do something that's very hard, get rid of free time, try and find some type of gainful employment that is comfortable to pay you back, or to imagine that you're actually not such a nice guy. You're actually a jerk and you don't deserve to get paid back. Which of those two things is easier? Now you've lost the money and the friend. If you want to keep your friends, you can give them money. By the way, they hate that too. They grow animosity for that as well because you're stealing their dignity from them. Everyone wants to have pride in themselves. Everyone wants to be self-sustaining. Nobody wants to be a leech of a psychopath. Wait, psychophant. Oh, see, this is why I love SciVive, because he uses words that I don't know. It says, nobody wants to be a leech of a sycophant. Sycophant. I think I'm saying that correctly. Anyone want to Google what that means for me? I'd love it. You want to put that in the chat? It's S-Y. Here, I'm going to type it. S-Y-C-O-P-H-A. Or anyone smarter than me happen to know that word? Neato. Let's find out. So nobody wants to be a leech of a sycophant. And for you to pay for people's things subconsciously harms them. It literally harms them. Very few people can genuinely appreciate a gift and not, to some degree, feel like they have to retaliate. This section is, I'm so glad that I started here because I didn't know this was in here. And I have heard before, I think maybe David Ramsey talks about this. I've heard him talk about not lending money to family. And hearing Richard talk about it this way, speaking about friends, in many ways, especially in this generation where we're at, a lot of our friends are like our family, right? Hold on, I'm going to pause there and read the definition from Chris Side Effects here. Learn to pronounce. Okay, person who acts obsequiously. I don't even know what that word is. My brain, I love it. Obsequiously towards someone important in order to gain advantage. Interesting. A kiss ass that is insincere. Okay, thanks, Gen Hex. That's a great way to summarize it. Yeah. Oh man, y'all. So, like I was saying, I've heard this in terms of your family, right? Because that's gonna, and I've luckily I followed that advice with my family members. I didn't with friends. In fact, just within this last couple years, I have in fact loaned money to a couple of friends, and reading this, and you know, just the way that he puts that, I feel dumb. I feel like I've made a big mistake. And even if, like, so let's say at this point, right, like I loaned the money. Let's say at this point I'm like, you know what, use it as a gift instead. Even if I say that, this is true. You know, everyone wants to have pride in themselves. They want to be self-sustaining. So for me to have done that is undermining, you know, these friends of mine. So that, I mean, that's a great point. I really think that it's important to be mindful of that, you know, like if it's someone that maybe you've done it before and they paid you back already, you know that you have this trust. I mean, maybe that's fine, but you know, in my case, I feel like it was an unknown, right? I was expecting to get paid back, didn't know if it was going to happen. At this point, might not. And it, for me, on my end of it, I don't feel terrible about the friendship. I don't feel like, I'm not upset with them, you know. But maybe that they're being, uh you know, a psychopath. um Anyways, yeah, that's a really great way to put that. So there's my marked or exhibiting fawning attentiveness. I was just reading a D-Raj's comment here. So yeah, we're here to SciVive and get smarter, y'all. I think that's what this stream is going to be about. Is just reading through this, learning together, learning new words. um all right, let's see. Where are we? Okay, so the next section. It says employees are worth more than friends. If you're in a house, it's unlikely that it was built by friends of any sort. It's likely that it was built by employees, because employees do what you tell them to do in exchange for you giving them a lot of value in return, value that you had to earn previously as well. That exchange of value for value, or money for labor. If you pay someone to paint something and then in return you paint for someone else, then it's like a proxy. The reason employees always work out so well is because functionally, it's the same as you doing it yourself. So by that token, employees are more important than friends. There are some more good examples as to why that's the case. How many friends do you have that are actually good friends? 6? 8? It depends. If you can build some relationships without communicating very much, but still maintain friend status, it's probably not more than 20. On the other hand, as far as employees go, you can have a lot more than 20, and you shouldn't limit yourself to progress that only 20 people could provide for you when you could have hundreds or thousands. Wouldn't you be surprised if there were companies out there that had hundreds of thousands? Would you be surprised? Well, it says maybe Walmart does. All right, next section, scaling with other people. Don't spend time on learning or talking to single individuals when you can create a framework that can allow other people to do it. Write a spec, enforce it by means of an enforcer, then you're no longer limited by your hours. You're now only limited by your money and other people's hours. Your ability to choose the right people and enforce that they are actually getting the things done is critical. Don't teach. Don't absorb more info. You have done enough of that. Scale through other people's hours. That way, when the ball's dropped, you aren't left there feeling like stuff. It's cute, some of the words and edits and things. All right, let's take a look at Bill Gates, who was once the richest person in the world. Even if he doesn't regain that status, he's still in the top 1% of anyone that's ever existed in the history of mankind. And if you took his wealth and compared it to the 10 people close to him, they would have a much higher combined wealth. Because no matter how rich you are, 10 people combined that are in your peer group will be richer. Well, that's interesting. So wouldn't it be smarter to convince these 10 people that have more than you will ever have, no matter how hard you could ever possibly work or how much luck you ever got? Wouldn't it be smarter to let those ideas that so influenced you and invigorated you influence those groups that are far greater than you could ever be? Yes. And that's why he does it. That's why Bill Gates doesn't just do his own thing. Bill Gates has given the pledge, which attracts other billionaires and multimillionaires to give huge portions of their wealth away, sooner rather than later, to things they believe in. A lot of smart people think that the solutions to the problems that they have are themselves. They think that if they take the right nootropics, if they work harder, if they put more hours in, that's going to get them where they want to be. Truth of the matter is, you yourself don't scale. You can't do 10 times as much work. If you could do 10 times as much work, you could only do it once. But when you use other people, when you use the power of the internet, when you use the power of machines, when you have machines and other human beings helping you do things, you don't just get a single 10x benefit. You can get it over and over and over again because the rest of the world scales, you don't. All those things that you do, trying to drug yourself and do Uberman method, sleep experiments, when they mess up, you have downtime. Find the machines, people, and systems that can scale in ways that you can't and do things that you can't. That's the same type of holistic thinking that leads you away from trying to extract performance out of yourself and towards extracting performance out of other people. How do you become less important to the organization because you've done such a good job hiring? How do you become less important to your unhappiness because you've surrounded yourself with the right systems and habits and people? The joy is nearly effortless. No hard busting of your ass on your own. Next section. Take yes, tin top. Mexicans prefer 10 thousands of X's, not just the 10 X's. Accurate. Okay, sorry, I'm gonna reposition myself here. Okay. The art of taking advice from losers. Why would we do that? Do losers have good ideas? Yes, they can. Can you learn from losers? Yes, you can. The trick is to know whether this loser is offering you good advice through actual experience or offering you the advice that is untested. That's the magic. Stopped clocks are right twice a day, and losers are often right too. The magic is checking to see if the loser's advice is given intelligently elsewhere. A quorum is a fancy word for getting a few different opinions on a thing and seeing if there's a consensus. It seems like the best books on success are never written by the most successful people. The best books on relationships are never written by the people with the best relationships, and the best books on happiness are never written by the happiest people. It also seems that the best sports coaches are never the best players. For that reason, be willing to give some leeway. Small section here, family, child support and alimony. Kids don't forcefully receive any more money after the age of 18. But if you get a divorce, your ex gets paid forever. Not the same 18 years not the same 18 years that kid gets. Wait. Not the same 18 years that kids get, but forever. Why is this? Why is that indeed? Forever. That's nuts, man. It's a long time. All right. Oh, and here we go. Here's another section about loan. It's titled "Loaning to Your Family." So we spoke for those of you that just joined us, and hello to everybody on the replay. We just had a little section where we were talking about friends and money. So this next section here, loaning to your family. This is one of those situations where, in a world where everyone's playing a slightly different video game, the intuitive solutions that you have are sometimes the worst things you can do. Oh, my family member needs money. Let me lend it to them. He'll pay me back. Oh, I've never heard from my family member again, and now they tell everyone that'll listen that I'm a piece of I'm curious who edited this or if these are his words, because it says stuff, but it obviously would be the bad word. I'm just going to say stuff because it's Sunday. We'll make this a family-friendly show. All right. So let me go back there. So he's saying in quotes, oh, my family member needs money. Let me lend it to them. Oh, he'll pay me back. Oh, I've never heard from my family member again. And now they'll tell everyone that'll listen that I'm a piece of stuff because they owe me money. Oops. SciVivors didn't get that memo, that's actually perhaps the wrong way to handle giving money to family. Give it to them, or get a collateral up front, or don't give it to them, or give it to them and make sure they'll pay it back. But if you're giving and they can't pay it back, you probably just lost a good relationship. You paid for the privilege of making them a worse person. They don't teach you about these ideas in most schools, and it's really important to learn. You could call that wisdom. Why don't they have a class called Wisdom? It would be doable. Maybe this great work of advice is that class. Yes, Richard Hart, maybe indeed this great work of advice is the wisdom class, because there is so much wisdom in here. And that is, again, I want to re-emphasize that as someone who is currently going through this scenario. And I mentioned earlier, not with family, because I made that distinction. I put my foot down and I said, absolutely not. You know, my mom asked to borrow money from me. No way, man. And now, because I allowed friends, I loaned money to a couple different friends. I'm now seeing that kind of I mean, not yet, you know, and I don't know what's in their head or how they're feeling about it, but it's very likely, you know, that these people may end up being upset with me in the long run because I undermined, you know, their value and you know what they should be able to do or what they would hope to do on their own. So a great point. Okay, so here's our next section. And let's see, where are we at time-wise? I think I'm going to go for about an hour on these. That's kind of my see how it goes timing. And of course, feel free to chime in. I want to encourage everyone that's watching to comment. I also really quickly, we'll do a little intermission real quick. There are a couple different places that if you've not read it yet, you can find SciVive. I created within Twitter, there's now a Twitter SciVive community. You can join that, and I'm hoping to get a little more action in there. If you're in that chat, please comment about SciVive. Maybe tell us a little story about how something within SciVive has helped you personally. I want to encourage more people to be vocal within that SciVive Twitter community. And within that community, I point people to the Telegram. So it's SciVive or t.me/SciVive, I'm pretty sure. And within the Telegram of SciVive, Richard has pinned, there's 3 pins. You can read the book. So what I'm reading right here, you can, he has also pinned a article about longevity. That's really great to read. And then he pinned my channel. He pinned the YouTube that I'm doing, the playlist for the SciVive audiobook. So feel free to check all that out. And let's see, I love audiobooks. Yoden, good to see you, man. Yeah, I love audiobooks too. Like I was just saying, check out, I have a playlist on this channel of SciVive. I've read from the intro up to chapter 3, and I'm working on chapter 4 right now. So, okay, so let's continue. We are going on to our next little section. It says, children, birth control and choosing comfort over the future of humanity. I'm intrigued. Because I know Richard doesn't have kids. I feel like at one point he probably really did want them. And maybe with this whole longevity research, he'll get to do that still. Because, you know, little baby Richards. Let's do it. All right. Anyways, because contraceptives are effective, eventually the world will have selected through evolution for people that can actually want to have kids, as opposed to people that inadvertently have kids through having sex. Contraceptive effectiveness makes not creating kids easier, whereas people who want to have kids actually have them. In a few hundred years from now, you're going to see a lot of those people that wanted to have kids or were just bad at using contraceptives. If your biology affects your society, and over time, your society actually affects your biology, it's a never-ending cycle. Guys today keep opting for big boobs. That keeps happening. People are going to bigger boobs because heredity exists. That's the selection pressure. We had biology that affected our society, and now our society affects our biology. If you need to take care of your child for years so he or she can survive on their own, then you can do more programming through nurture and less programming through nature because you have the time to do so. It's easy to discount all of the things that lead to children as things you don't care about and are not focused on. It's also important to understand that the reason you get to play in this game is because it's very likely that your parents had sex, probably more than once, and were either bad at using condoms or were told that mommy couldn't get pregnant or they actually wanted to have a kid. One could imagine it is not the most common outcome, and that maybe most guys that have sex do it for the joy, while preferring that kids not come out of it. Next section, make something that lasts. What we have now is a disagreement, a misalignment of desires between the system that allowed us to exist and the future. If 10,000 years from now we compared what was left over from you assuming you were not still around, which is a pretty good bet. No one has lived that long yet, so it's unlikely that you'll be the first. Then what's more likely to be around? Your genes in the form of your offspring, or a building that you built? It just so happens that buildings crumble, and we don't have any 10,000-year-old buildings around here. Out of all the things in this world that you can literally build with your own hands, energy, and time, a child is the most likely thing that will take parts of you and take it into the future. Let's see. And y'all are welcome. I appreciate that you appreciate this. It's good stuff, you know? This content is really great, and that's why I continue to read it and promote it, and I just am so overjoyed that Richard is happy with my efforts as well. You know, it was neat hearing him a little bit earlier on his live stream talk about what's next for him and talking about starting his own country. And I'm like, okay, but let's edit SciVive first. And I have such a passion for this because, like he said when he and I did the Q&A together, you know, he was like, that's the thing that people are going to come after is my beliefs, right? I have all my beliefs written in this large book that you can go and read. And, you know, the haters that are going to hate, they're probably going to start sifting through this stuff, looking for things to pull out. But there's so much good stuff in here. I mean, what are you going to say? Like, oh no, he just told us to like be careful with our money and our relationships, you know? Like, what a terrible guy. What a terrible guy. All right, next section. Choosing self over future others. Your offspring will look like you and operate like you, if you were there to raise them, and even if you were not. Nature matters, as did. Ooh, blah, blah, blah. Hold the phone, y'all. I need some tea. I'm not going far. All right. So little what would you call this? Piece of advice for anyone who is a singer or voice actor or you know, if you like to talk, there's a great tea that's used often called throat coat. And I'll bring a little packet next time because I drink it all the time, but it's really great for just, you know, keeping those pipes healthy. So pardon me while I sip my tea. Oh yeah. Okay, let's do that again. So I'm going to start from the heading. Choosing self over future others. Your offspring will look like you and operate like you, if you were there to raise them, and even if you were not. Nature matters, as does nurture. But if you didn't have the nurture, the nature would still matter. So now we live our lives trying to optimize for ourselves greedily at the cost at the future. And some people could be okay with that trade. Maybe you are almost okay with the next 10,000 years having a little more hardship if there's a chance that you can have a better life now. Is it greedy? Yes, by definition it is, for the same reason you don't let a bunch of strangers in your house and you don't let them into your wallet. In this world of limited resources, that which preceded you has ingrained in you the value of choosing self over others, family over others, kin over others, friends and teammates over others. Any one of you that decides that you are going to try and shift that paradigm and do a different thing, you will be selected against and you will be removed from competition. You will not have offspring, and your offspring may not survive because you tried to be smarter than the system that brought you into this world. What's right for the future of the world's often wrong for us individually. And what's wrong for the future is right for us from a short-term or mid-term personal development standpoint. Do you care about money? Do you care about excellence in areas that are not producing kids? If you do, producing kids is going to eat up a lot of your time. And while it will give you fulfillment that you couldn't otherwise get, and in the mid to long term, it's going to pay off great, hopefully, it's still a trade. Sorry, I'm looking at, there's a picture. There's a picture in SciVive. It's a family. I think it's a guy from the band Slayer, and he's like that, and he's got his family, and it says, "You could be in Slayer, and your teenage daughter will still think you're lame." It's cute because the dad's like this, and the daughter's like, "Dad," like she's got that dad face on. It's cute. Okay. And that's that's things that hopefully when I get the screen sharing thing down, I'll be able to share that. That might be a good idea for this next time. I might actually have the text up on the screen so that y'all can read along or see the images. That there's not a lot of images in the book or things like that. But just a thought. Okay, next section. Stupid classifications. There appears to be many advertisements. Sorry, I just got distracted. Let's have a tea party. Yes. Sunday, tea and SciVive. I'm just watching the comments real quick, making sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, back to it. Stupid classifications. There appears to be many advertisements for diversity and quotas and report cards out there. Why are you classifying by race? Why don't you classify by stupid? How many stupid people have you hired? Or how many rage-filled people? Or how many depressed people? Or how many people who always say the wrong thing? Why are you using race to select between people? Doesn't that make you a racist? Isn't there some more important categorization that you can use for humans? You're better off dividing people by profession or by their free time activities. Some people act one way at work and act another way when they're not at work. Driving tests. Do you think that everyone, when they reach 16 years of age, should get a driver's license? Obviously not, and that's why we have tests. Do you think that only people that have reached the age of 16 in the United States should be the only people that are allowed to take those tests? It's probably true that some people aren't already, it's probably true that some people aren't ready at 20, and some people are ready at 12, because we don't all develop at the same rate. We have diversity. We have the excellence, robustness, and the redundancy of multiple people with multiple growth strategies. Some people are early bloomers, and some people are late bloomers. Some people are good with hand-eye coordination and driving. Some people are idiot savants who can't ever drive anything, but if you ask them when the second Tuesday of March was a couple thousand years ago, they know the date. Or vice versa, you tell them the date, they tell you which day of the week it was. There are people that have mental ability and mental capacity in great excess in a certain area because they have diminished capacity in another area. Right, next section is intellect distribution. And I think this is kind of a continuation from the previous one. It says, now, is that to say that it's a zero-sum game? Is that to say that you can only have intellect in an area if you become stupid someplace else? No, definitely not. Because of the power of analogy, the more you understand about the world in one area, the more you understand about the world in all other areas, as long as you learn how to apply the analogy and framework somewhere else. It may not increase what they call in the study of intelligence your big G, your general intelligence, or how well you do on an IQ test, but you can have a high big G without ever learning a language. You can have big G in intelligence without ever learning how to do anything. If you were deprived of basically all enriching information, born on an island, and didn't have culture, or have never heard a joke, or never heard a song, you would still have the big G that you were born with. Let's see big G for what it is. It's a useful metric to decide whether there are some exercises that have good fall over usefulness. Next section is called giving/reciprocity. T-burps. Hold on. Okay. Here we go. Very few people can genuinely appreciate a gift and not, to some degree, feel like they have to reciprocate. A properly programmed person is going to reciprocate with another awesome gift. And you've got a self-referencing thought. Christmas time. I love giving gifts. They love giving gifts. Everyone's happy and it's win for everybody. That's what gift giving is. It's convincing you to do something for yourself, but the thing that you're doing for yourself is that you're doing it for someone else. I'm too lazy to scratch my back, but I'll scratch yours and then you'll scratch mine because we believe in reciprocity. The end result is you've got a scratched back and I've got a scratched back, but neither one of us would have scratched our own out of laziness. The reason that gift giving exists in the world and the reason that credit is so powerful in the world is because it's the lubrication that causes human beings to get motivated and do things that their otherwise lazy, calorie-saving brain wouldn't engage in. We need those heroes to go out there and run 3-minute miles, or whatever that crazy number is for the super low time in which one can run a mile. SciVive can assure you most people never come close to running such a thing. But we need those people who can excel and like to give gifts. We need those people who like to make other people happy. We need those people who are willing to take it on faith and give you credit that they'll do a thing for you today or give you a thing today because in the future, they believe that you'll pull through and do the right thing afterward. Without those amplifiers, without those lubricants, things would grind to a halt and no one would do anything for anyone. It's a tragedy that you see during times of depression that giant masses of intelligent, useful people with access to resources are not able to overcome the resting friction of laziness or the difficulty of asset allocation. They're too greedy and they don't want to part with a thing until it's paid for because they're afraid they'll never get paid. Then, if enough people do that, nobody does anything anymore. Houses don't get built, mortgages cannot be offered, and people start sleeping in tents. It's funny that when you ask people for respect and gratitude, they get first level benefit from being grateful. Then they get the happiness. You get to watch the happiness, you're one level removed. They got paid to generate it, and you had to pay to generate it. You had a cost, and they had a benefit. It's hilarious. It's something that costs them nothing, so they literally profit from the impetus. Something that benefits them directly, whereas you just get to watch them benefiting and derive some indirect benefit, which has to be begged for or has to be fought for. How did that evolve? How did those who are turning down the profit twice to direct any actual impetus cost evolve? This next section is called thresholds/testing. That concept of tipping points and thresholds is interesting. Like the saying says, guests are like fish. They begin to sink after 3 days. Or, wind to a relationship is like wind to a flame. Wind to a relationship is like wind to a flame, is like distance to a relationship. A small amount makes it stronger and too much extinguishes it. This whole concept of thresholds existing is very interesting. There's a saying that you shouldn't test friends because they'll fail. Don't unfairly test friends, or test them for no good, or test them for no good, wholesome reason. If you can't responsibly, fairly test people for something that's important without much overhead cost or without appearing to be manipulated, then it can be useful. One could probably write an entire separate book on how to prune your social Gordon. This is why I have bloopers. One could probably write an entire separate book on how to prune your social garden to have more enjoyment and less pain from the friends, lovers, and family relationships that you have at your life. That's a book on its own. That is very beautifully stated. I really like that expression. I'm going to read that again, actually. One could probably write an entire separate book on how to prune your social garden to have more enjoyment and less pain from the friends, lovers, and family relationships that you have at your life. That's a book on its own. Absolutely, Richard. That is very beautifully stated. So poetic. Okay, good. Moving on. Should you test those around you? Yes. Not in a time-consuming manner and not unreasonably. Is it reasonable for someone to test the fire department by burning their house down? No. Is it reasonable for people to test their immune system by injecting weird diseases into their blood? No. Very on point for things going on right now. Interjection. Anyways, let's see. No. Is it reasonable to test your blood clotting by chopping your head off? No. The amount that you can gain by testing someone is actually in direct proportion to the options you have upon a failed test. If you like to test all the girls that you're with, what are the only possible outcomes resulting from that test? They could pass or they could fail, or they could get an inconclusive or detect it. You're a testing person. Oh, you're testing a person, and most people don't like that stuff because of all risk for them. If they pass, they're still where they started, but if they fail, their life is much worse. It's like an option that's one directional for them. When you test people, they're mostly getting bent over on the deal. You're actually to some small degree harming everyone that you test because you're offering them the opportunity of getting kicked out of your life without the upside of basically nothing. You don't even want to tell them that it was a test because then they'll punish you for doing that test. It's an interesting metric that you harm those people that you test to some degree. In the corporate environment, when you give people tests that are time consuming, you used up the time of lots of people for a test. There's a requisite to a job, but if you're only giving one person that job, that's like having an artistic project, a competition to draw a logo for you and lots of people compete, but only one of those logos gets chosen. Think about how many man hours of somewhat but not totally wasted time occurred because they were all doing the same work, when perhaps you could have looked at the field of participants to see if any of their other work was good enough and only picked the ones that had a chance of winning. That's a really cool thought as well. I like that. Because yeah, I mean, only one of those gets chosen, and it's probably likely that you're choosing the person who has the best work anyways. So why waste everyone else's time? All right, continuing. Therefore, the concept is that testing is actually an attack on the other person. This could be a very interesting discovery. When you're out there harming your loved ones and the people on your team by testing them, you better have some upside for doing that. The upside that you have only exists if upon a failure by them, you can do something better. For a thought experiment, let's assume you live on a deserted island with one other person and your lovers. If you test them and they fail, you may come to dislike them. Now they're not worthy of your time. Your only option at that point is loneliness because you're on a deserted island. If only one person in the world can perform a job for some weird reason, then there's no reason to test them. They do the job or they don't. If you test them and they fail, you are still going to hire them because you hope that that was just a random mistake from that only guy suitable for the job. How much do you want the job to actually get done? Maybe you want to save your money so much that you just don't ever hire them. Maybe in that case, the testing still matters. The point is, testing only becomes valuable with an increased amount of changes that you can make upon a failure. If you can't afford to go back out there and find a new party to interact with, or you can't afford to hire somebody that's better, maybe you're better off lowering your standards than testing and failing somebody out of the pool when you don't have any options. Now, should you have more options? Yes. Go build them. Become worthy of them. Should you deserve an amazing relationship? Yes. Be an amazing partner. Earn the right to demand an amazing relationship, whether in business or love. And I'm going to read that again too. I love that. Should you deserve an amazing relationship? Yes. Be an amazing partner. Earn the right to demand an amazing relationship, whether in business or in love. I love it. The discovery, this is the last little paragraph here. The discovery that SciVive is trying to share with you is testing can be good. It can be bad. It can be harmful. It usually is, and its value has more to do with you and the options you have based on when that other party that's been tested fails. It has less to do with the party that's tested. You're not bringing much value to their life by giving them that lose or break even experience. Unreasonable, unfair tests for particularly greed and jealous, self-serving motives that don't help the other party should be considered punishable as a tax. Cool. I'm gonna read for another like 4 minutes, and then I'll be done. So yeah, just gonna keep this to an hour. Hopefully, more participation. If you guys, like I would love people to, if you have, again, if you have an experience that you can relate to this, in the future, I may bring people on to kind of talk about their SciVive experiences and what they're doing to SciVive in this crazy world that we're in. But yeah, so let's read a little bit more and then we'll be done. And again, I appreciate everyone watching. Thanks for watching on the replay. I hope you all enjoyed this content. Okay, next section is signals. Much of what makes you human primarily developed for others to observe rather than for you to experience. It was more for them and through their correct response and your bond to them than it was for you. Laughter, yelling when surprised, crying, all are signaling mechanisms built to tell those around you the truth faster and more honestly than you could consciously through speaking effort. This is why dogs raise their tails and wag them. They need a fast, thought-free method to communicate important information to their pack. What real advantages do we have as humans over all the other animals in the kingdom? Intelligence, communication, and tools. How good would the tools be without communication? Without someone being able to tell you or show you by example how to make or use one? You wouldn't get too far. I just saw this. Thank you, D-Rush. Appreciate y'all. Okay. The last little part here. Crying is a signaling mechanism that you genuinely need assistance. When someone scares you and you scream, that's intended for everyone else to come help your ass. But posture, eye contact, crying, yelling, body movement, all of these things, they are signaling. Let's see. I think I should have enough time to read this part. It's a little long, but this will probably be the last section that I'll read from this chapter 6 here. So, little section here called Feeling Important. There are a lot of people on this green planet, and we all want to feel important. You want to feel important. Everyone wants to feel important. Why? Because it's the social world we live in. You most likely don't make your own food or didn't invent this language that you are reading in. You don't make your own clothes, you didn't pave the roads, and you didn't refine the gas that's going in your car. You need other people to survive. And if other people don't think you're important, if you're not significant, and if civilization starts to if civilization starts to deteriorate or resources become very limited, you would get left out first, and nobody wants that for themselves. We're programmed to be meaningful among society. Another upside, if there is wisdom of the crowds, which by theory and study there is, how do you execute the wisdom of the crowds personally? You need to care about the crowd. And what does that mean? It means that you're not a psychopath without feeling and empathy and caring about what other people think. This means that if you care about what other people think, then you must want to be respected by them. You want them to think you're important and look at the social group you're in and feel important and have significance. Now, do some people do this wrong? Yes. Some people try and get significance in a way that is more harmful than meaningful. Some people receive significance or respect at the end of a gun. Some people get it through gang membership, and some people get it through self-harm or harming others. The Jackass television show, guys, became very successful and caused a lot of laughter in the world by destroying their bodies. These guys' bodies are nearly destroyed. They have catheters, they are missing tons of teeth, they have PTSD, They have huge health issues because they sacrificed their bodies for probably lots of reasons, but one important one was the significance and feelings of the people who saw them doing what they were doing. They didn't just mess their bodies up, they messed their bodies up with lots of cameras, and those lots of cameras were an important part of what they did. If they were alone, you'd find they did a lot less of that crazy self-harming stuff. For social situations that are in front of the camera, they'll engage in riskier behavior because the profit to them is more. If you're the only one laughing, it's funny, but if you and the rest of the world is laughing, it's way funnier. What's the summary of this section? There are more and less profitable ways to become significant. Some of the things you might do to become significant, like flapping your lips and talking when you already know the person you're talking to understands what you're trying to say, but you just want to seem smart, so you keep talking. If communication is as useful as getting an idea from one person to another, we'll say that's the level one form of communication. Maybe influence and motivation will be level 2 and level 3. Let's say level 1 is just getting the idea across. As soon as you know you got your idea across, please shut up and let the next good idea spread. Men say women are a mystery and very hard to understand. It turns out that they're only hard to understand and a mystery if you don't understand the evolutionary psychology and game theory behind what they do. When you start to analyze that and have it in your head rather quickly, or the tacit understanding of it, then you understand why they do what they do, and you understand why it works and how you might not even suggest that they change much of it. Apparently, everyone wins imaginary arguments in their showers. Due to the prevalence of the confession, it's obvious how important relationships and significance are in our society. Studies show that the pain you feel when you don't get the attention you desire from a person you feel is important is nearly the same pain you feel from physical pain. How do you feel important? Maybe through force, but how do you get away with it? Have a good excuse. There are guys who go out dying for an excuse. Sometimes life's got you down and you don't feel like you've got a way out. You want to hurt somebody because it works. You hurt somebody and now you feel important and they will show you respect. Now you have more power because you just took it. It's not beautiful. It's weird though that it may make you feel good at least temporarily. We all have that piece of stuff in us that wants to do the wrong thing sometimes. When you're not feeling good and when someone screws up royally, you may wish to social justice warrior that guy, which is the popular thing. People get their violence out through social justice warrior tactics lately. Social justice warriors want to do negative reinforcing, retaliatory actions under the guise of something positive. It's just a way to feel more important, more significant, and be violent and hurtful towards someone else with a good excuse. You can be compassionate to people who are bigots. That's not social justice warrior. It's not called social justice. It's just called social justice warrior. Let me see. Okay, I lied. I'm going to read one more section and we'll be done because this looks cool. And I want to end on a little more positive note, and I'm all about cooperation. So the last section I'll read here says, we survive through cooperation. For childbearing to take so long and for survival in general against other tribes, against the elements, animals, and disease, and just life in general is so hard, we needed to develop that strength. We needed to develop that cooperation, or we would just be lizard or tiger food. To not be something's food is actually a lot of work. That animal wants to kill you and eat you, and you have the littlest teeth and claws of all. So what do you have? You possess cooperation tools. You possess cooperation and tools, with cooperation being the most important. For if someone didn't teach you how to build the tool, it is very unlikely that you would figure it out on your own. You don't even get to use tools without cooperation. You think that if you were on an island, you would know how to make a spear? Even knowing that spears exist and how they are made, you still might not figure it out. You might never make a good spear, and if you can't make a good spear, what can you make? That's the most basic tool in the world. You need to cut wood, you need a knife, but how do you make a rope? No idea. Twist some stuff together, see if that works. It gets a lot trickier with emotional needs. There needs to be an emotional service industry, more on demand. We have physical service on demand, such as ordering a pizza. People schedule dates with their therapists all day long. Anybody that sits and listens to your damn problems, even if they just nod, you feel that person is important and connected, vital, and really helping you. That's what you probably feel, and it's probably true. Human beings need to feel heard. What could give more significance than shutting up and listening to someone else? Actually listening to them. How could you give someone more significance than that? When you had an idea today, how much time did someone put into making sure they understood it? All the time it took. Because they know it's important for you to feel that understood. It is very important. It's also greedy for the listener. One may want to understand what you are saying. Might turn out beneficial for them because you might be saying something really useful. And speaking of saying things really useful, you just heard from chapter 6 of SciVive, written by Richard Hart. I am very grateful for everyone who came to hang out in our Hex Church today, SciVive Chapel. And I look forward, I'm going to try doing this every Sunday. So I look forward to seeing you all next Sunday. Hopefully I'll have a little more things figured out in terms of streaming, and we'll have some music going, and it's going to be a real good time. So tune in next week. So just say bye to chats. Yeah, I like this. I'm going to end on this little comment here. Standing on the shoulders of giants. Absolutely. And my last little comment on that section that we just read is, isn't it lovely that we have, this genius to look up to who listens to us, and how heard. I think that's part of why it's such a great community, because I feel heard. I mean, he sits and for hours goes through reading our questions, asking us, or getting feedback from us and listening to us. So what a beautiful thing that we are all a part of. Thanks again, y'all, and I appreciate you. Be sure to like and subscribe and share. And someday I'll have a lot more fun stuff going on. But I appreciate y'all growing with me. Have a great rest of your day. See you next week.